Hello, welcome to City Studio. My name is Mischa. I'm the manager of CityStudio London. Today, I just wanted to record a quick video to talk about how you communicate about CityStudio outside of your classroom. So it's really exciting that we're doing this program inside your classroom. We have all this great work that's happening, and sometimes in your projects, during the class itself, during your project, you might have a reason to communicate externally to your classroom, perhaps to set up information interviews with community partners, or any other reason that you might think of to communicate outside the class. Perhaps you want to connect with other city staff members who might have relevant expertise that you're looking to connect with. So I just wanted to, or you might want to connect with the press. So I just wanted to give a quick kind of overview about what's the best practices around doing that. First of all, I just wanted to help frame that CityStudio sits between the City of London and all of our post-secondary institutions. So all of our projects they're not City of London projects, they're CityStudio projects. So it's really important that when you're communicating about your project, you're explaining that this is a CityStudio project. We're not saying that it is City of London project. And in that way, if you ever want to add any branding like logos, you always want to use the CityStudio logo versus the City of London logo. The reason for this distinction is that while the projects come from the city's strategic plan and they're brought forward by city staff, these are not projects that have been approved by council. So there has not been any budgetary allocation towards these projects that has been approved by council. These are experimental projects that city staff are doing within the work that they're responsible for of the strategic plan. They may decide to allocate budget if it's relevant to them, but there isn't any necessary, there's no commitment that's been made for any budgetary spend on these projects that's been approved by council. So we definitely want to communicate clearly that we are a CityStudio project. We're doing experimental projects with the City of London that are all part of the city's strategic plan. So another piece is, when you're reaching out to community partners, you want to explain what CityStudio is. While we are doing our best to build awareness about the CityStudio program, we're a new program. We've been in London only since 2019, so we've only been around for a short period of time. Many people don't know what CityStudio is, including at the City of London. So it's really important that you frame a little bit about what CityStudio is. You can pull any text off of the CityStudio London website that might help to do that. So we do have some pieces of text on our landing page and on our About page that just explain what CityStudio is, basically explaining that it's a collaboration between the city and the 5 post-secondary institutions and that we're running these experimental projects with students. So you want to explain CityStudio. You can also think about what your speaking points are. So being very mindful about if there is a particular call to action that you're asking somebody to do, to be very clear about what that call to action is. So whether it's that you want a meeting, or you want people to come to Hubbub to see your project, or you want somebody to fill out a survey, whatever your call to action is, be very clear about what that is so that the person that you're reaching out to knows what you're asking of them. And you want to think about framing your ask in a way that might be mutually beneficial to that individual. So just being mindful about the fact that we're asking for people's time and attention, and we want to do that in the most respectful way possible. So we definitely want to add any type of gratitude, acknowledging that people would have to sort of donate time to be able to do whatever you might want them to do, or even to just read the email. So definitely include any kind of statement that acknowledges the recipient with an expression of gratitude for their time and attention. So just preparing your speaking points. So if you're drafting an email or if you're calling somebody on the phone, prepare your speaking points in advance so that you really are very clear about, what you want to convey in this communication. That might be that you want to sort of say what CityStudio is, you want to say what your project is, and you want to say what your ask is, and you want to give any key information if there's a deadline by which you need something back by, or if you want somebody, if they can't meet the ask, if you want them to put somebody else forward in their place, just making all of that very clear. And also prepare sort of a general statement about your project so that you are explaining what your project is about so that the recipient can sort of contextualize what this communication is about. Next, I just want to talk a little bit about if you're reaching out to the press at all. Obviously, in any of these communications, you can use any content off the CityStudio website or off of social media accounts as links to help phrase or frame your communication. There's also a number of videos on our YouTube channel. So any of that information, you're welcome to pull and add links into your communication. If you are reaching out to press, or if the press is reaching out to you, likewise, you can direct them to always back to our website. So if you're not sure about anything, you can always just say, I'm doing this project inside my class with CityStudio, and then direct people to the CityStudio London website. And if they have any more questions about CityStudio, they can follow up directly with us, and we will handle managing the communication about CityStudio that way. So our CityStudio's email address is on the website, so you can always direct people back to the website if you need to. When you're talking with press, you really want to prepare in advance your speaking points about what you want to convey in this communication. And be aware that the press will be, always trying to think about what people's motivation is. The press will have its own idea about what a story might be or how they may want to frame a story. And so if you have never spoken with the press before, we wanted to give you a few little tips to know how to handle those situations, because we do want to try to create opportunities for you to engage with the press, possibly at Hubbub or anytime during your project. It's a really great practice and skill to do, and then it's a great piece to have in your portfolio for your CV or your resume. So with your speaking points, just like for Hubbub, we ask you to create a poster that's a very high level poster that just describes what your project's about, what the key kind of outcomes are, perhaps a tiny bit about the background of why the project's happening, and then, or why it's relevant, and then what are the next steps. You sort of want to have that information really clearly outlined for yourself so that it's very easy for you to say those points. So you may have a few of them and you just write them out in front of you so that you know what they are. And then what you can do is you can redirect any questions back towards those points that you want to cover. So even if the question doesn't seem directly to be related to what you want to talk about, you can always respectfully acknowledge the question and say, thank you for the question. That brings to mind, and then say the point that you want to make. So you don't have to follow the journalist's narrative of how they're understanding the story. You can also direct the conversation through your speaking points. Also, I want to flag that you should take care of your own sort of personal identity in whatever way feels right for you and whatever feels comfortable for you. So if you want to be anonymous in speaking with the press, you can do that. You can just ask them to not include your name. If they want to identify you, you could identify yourself as a student. You could identify yourself as a student of a school. So you could say, I am a Fanshawe student, or I am a Western student, or I'm a Huron student, or a Brescia student, or a King student. And if you have been communicating and they know your name, you can just add, if you don't want them to include your name in anything that they're publishing, you can just ask them to not include your name. Likewise, for whatever content you feel most comfortable communicating through, if you don't want to have your physical representation shown, you can ask to do the interview by phone, or you can ask to submit something by writing as well, if you prefer to just write something out about your project. But usually there will be some kind of a dialogue, but just being creative about how that can happen. Possibly even in a chat if you wanted to type back and forth or through text. But again, just really encouraging you to keep in mind your speaking points about how you want to convey what it is that you're communicating about, and being an advocate for yourself and for the story that you're putting forward, and just being mindful that of the risk that the journalist may try to take you down a certain narrative of a story that may not actually align with what you're trying to communicate about. So those were kind of the main points I wanted to share with you about communicating about your City Studio project outside of the classroom. If at any point you want any support or guidance or just to talk about this, please reach out to us. We're happy to have a conversation with you just to navigate whatever's coming up or any curiosity that you have about that. Or if you want to connect with the press and you want help in knowing in how to do that, or you want contacts, please reach out. We do have those resources available, and we're here to help. And we're really excited that that our community is going to hear more of your voice and learn about your projects and the amazing work that you're doing. So good luck and keep in touch.